So now we transition to another fireside. This one will be moderated by Shin Fuse from NPM Capital, where he's a managing director. Worth noting, NPM is very creatively and resourcefully come into the gene and cell therapy field in a big way, creating companies like Elevate Bio, other major investments, and also collaborating with Bayer themselves. And from Bayer, Wolfram Carius, EVP of Bayer Pharmaceuticals and the head of gene and cell therapy for the company, will be talking with Shin about building a GCT portfolio. Shin and Wolfram, it's all yours.
Thanks, Chris. And thank you to all the organizers of the forum for the opportunity to participate in this exciting discussion today with Dr. Wolfram Carius from Bayer. My name is Shin Fuse, and I'm a managing director at NPM Capital. At NPM, I've been involved in several investments and company builds, including one that just came up called Elevate Bio. Just one line about NPM Capital. We're a life science-focused venture capital firm focused on early-stage investments and company builds, with investing out of several funds totaling about 1.3 billion, and we have a total of around 3.6 billion under management. It is my true pleasure today to introduce Dr. Wolfram Carius, who is currently Executive Vice President at Bayer Pharmaceuticals and leads the newly established cell and gene therapy unit at Bayer. And Bayer has been building a significant presence in the space over the last several years. So we look forward to digging into this topic today. Wolfram was previously EVP of product supply at Bayer since September 2016. Prior to that, he was at the global leadership team at Sanofi, where his tenure included at Sanofi Genzyme, Aventis, and Sanofi Pasteur as well. And prior to that, he was the EVP of Tech Development and Tech Ops at Boehringer. So, welcome, Wolfram, and we look forward to the discussion. So Wolfram, first question for you was something that I kind of touched on in the introduction, that your team at Bayer has really been extremely active in building your portfolio in the cell and gene therapy space. Could you talk a little bit about what led you to decide to invest so heavily in the space?
Yeah, thank you very much for this nice introduction. Happy to be here. Yeah, I think the main driver is first and foremost Bayer's vision, really to transform patients' health by breakthrough innovation. And we believe that the cell and gene therapy really will make a difference. It will be a new era of healthcare where we can shift step by step, but continuously, treatment into the direction of cure. And as we have in the past decade, I would say, in my words, have been able to read and to interpret, e.g. the genome, learn about the cell and cell biology significantly more. Now we are more about delivering it, about really writing also the genome. And I think with thousands of untreatable diseases out, it is a clear call for a new wave of innovation for biotech and the pharmaceutical industry. There's a huge unmet need. And the last session was just about the COVID crisis and how the innovation could be accelerated. So there are a lot of patients which have no time to wait. So we should get better. That's our motivation to be a leader, this new wave of innovation, and enable our body, so to say, to repair, to regenerate, and eventually even cure.
Thanks. And could you talk about kind of Bayer's overall strategy in the space? Are there specific areas that you're focusing into? I know you've done a number of transactions, which we'll talk about later, but also areas that you haven't focused on as well. So if you could kind of provide a bit of an overview. Great.
Sure, happy to do so. So our first belief is that technology and science together really prime the future. So with a diligently selection of technology platforms, synergistically linked to each other, we think we can really harvest the full potential of gene and cell therapy and build by that a sustainable preclinical and clinical pipeline, which we move forward, a portfolio generating assets instead of, let's say, opportunistically look to single asset investments. So based on, we think, pretty clear decision criteria, like what medical need is out there, what is the technological and clinical developmentability, what is the IP we can move forward, what is the market access for us, and how can we really contribute to make a difference to the patients. With that, we selected 4 areas where we want to focus on. This is first, gene augmentation. This is second, cell therapy based on the induced polypluripotent stem cell technology platform. It is gene editing, which is, of course, needed for both of the first ones, but will develop also in vivo in an own platform in the future. And fourth, more dedicated to oncology specifically, the allogenic cell therapy, where we obviously want to, as an ambition, really solve crack the golden nut of solid tumor treatment, which obviously is a high target. For that, I think we, based on trying to have a comprehensive CGT platform, which we set up really along the entire chain. So this interaction, we feel, and that's our experience also, is a daily, weekly, high frequent interaction between research, between the clinical, the CMC development, up to the patient and backwards. And we have to modify the process to get better efficiency, to get better safety. So this end-to-end setup for us seems to be one of the very important elements, how we think we could be successful in this area.
Yeah. You did touch on CMC. That was one of the questions I had, but before we go there, another thing you touched on was kind of the platform versus asset aspect that touched on, which I thought was interesting, and also, you know, definitely noticed in kind of the transactions that you've done, including the acquisitions of AskBio as well as Blue Rock, and also your major deal with and Sentry as well. Could you walk us through your thoughts around these transactions in the context of the, you know, how they integrate into your broader Bayer strategy, and, you know, how that, you know, moving forward as well?
For sure. So one of the first ideas is our conviction that if we join the best of biotech, and in my personal experience of the last 3.5 decades, it's the passion, it's the spirit, it's the dedication to science, the agility of decision making, combined with the experience on pharma side, which is also very important on drug product, on the device, on the part of market access, commercialization, patient interaction. If we combine these 2 worlds, we can accelerate the translation, the transformation of breakthrough science, and get it really fast and faster to the patient. So that was the first thought, which we strictly follow, and what we call somewhere an arm length approach to leave also AskBio, Blue Rock, the collaborations really drive this by themselves first, because too enthusiastic interaction can also not be helpful, as everybody knows also. But on the other side, this platform approach is a strategic benefit to balance on one side the maturity of the platforms. We all know that gene therapy for sure is much more mature than cell therapy at the moment. And on the other side, we balance also risk and chances within the portfolio of the platform. Example will be for us bio, approach for us for a monogenetic disease, which we understand the science and the interaction obviously much better than for a very complicated polygenetic disease, be it on heart failure or Parkinson, has a different probability of success and needs to be risk balanced. And the same is true for BlueRock on iPSC, where of course a highly complex disease like Parkinson has to have a different approach than a confinement, which you find, for example, in ophthalmology, where BlueRock, with the latest deal with Otis, which you might have heard this week, moved forward, benefiting also of benefits of knowledge we have in ophthalmology at Bayer.
Yeah, no, it's very, very exciting. We've been watching the progress of BlueRock's programs as well as AskBio's programs as well. Those are fantastic, I guess, synergies with Bayer's overall infrastructure as well. And speaking of infrastructure, I touched on this earlier as well, but clearly, the first, I guess, wave of the cell as well as gene therapy programs are entering the clinic, some being approved and reaching patients. But overall, CMC has been a challenge, and in fact, that was kind of the hypothesis behind a company called Elevate Bio that we launched as well. Could you talk about Bayer's view of kind of the CMC in the space and what your strategy is? Whether it's how much what you're investing in this space as well.
I could not agree more to your approach with Elevate Bio, because we all know that if it was ever true for biologics, it is true for cell and gene therapy that the process is the product. And it is, I would say, outside the tech development and operations community, brutally underestimated. And we see it. It is really the experience we have with our programs that it is underestimated what impact the process has on safety, on efficiency, and not only on the quality side and the reproducibility. And it will even have a significant impact on the availability of such a therapy in sense of access, because nobody can afford that we are as efficient, or you might call it inefficient, in our process setup as we are today. And being part of the monoclonal antibody story from the very beginning, more than 25 years ago, everybody might remember and remind ourselves that we started also with nearly unbelievable high cost and undefined processes until we got to standardization, automation, and got the hands around. We invested very early in Bayer, to be very concrete there, in the different phases from the very early non-GMP to GMP facilities and capabilities in a very modular and flexible way, which means building modular setups for gene and modular setups for cell therapy in prefabricated shells, pretty standardized. Try to stay to ballroom concept to have flexibility for the process we set up in such an environment, and try to set that up, and we do that on West Coast, East Coast, Europe, and future obviously in China, that we have that close to our development centers to have also the people flexibility, but also transferring people's knowledge with the product instead of doing any handover along this development chain. So We try to mitigate with that what I think we all also have to see as reality. We will have a nice portfolio, and many of these products will fail, and some will be hopefully very successful. So we will have this volatility, and we have to balance how we deal with that without just having invested much too much, or having invested not enough. And I can only share out of my own experience of the past, having had a chance to launch together or support launches, 23 launches actually in my life, that none of them, but really none of them, was even close to the prediction of the forecasts, either dramatically too low or dramatically too high. But I think we should just not believe that we can predict this future.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. And you know, automation you touched on. That's obviously a very important part of kind of improving our CMC and standardizing it. Could you touch a little bit, maybe more in depth, about kind of the efforts that you have in that space in terms of CMC and automating some of the processes that are currently manual?
Yeah, we definitely have to look first at the process controls. And it reminds, again, referring bit to the back when we talked about the beginning of the monoclonal antibody area about a defined biologics. And now we would look back what we defined as a defined biologics at that time from regulatory, from our knowledge. Everybody would say, holy cow, this was really not a defined product. Now we have to gain this experience, how we monitor such process, how we standardize. I'm convinced, we are convinced that allogenic cell therapy, for example, will make a difference, not only from cost and reproducibility, but specifically also from the quality of the cells, from the quality of the product, reproducibility in the sense of having safe, very safe product in hand and being able to automate this process from the very beginning, based on cell line, based on metabolism of the cells, the various parameters we will establish and have to establish and get better in analytics, which play a major role. And for sure, we should also not be blindsided that with our learning, the levels of expectation of such a control of a process, also with authorities, rightly so, will raise.
Yeah, thank you. So I see that our clock is ticking. I can see it on my screen here. There's so many things I want to dig into, given how much you've done in the space and and the different fields. One question I must ask as a person that's involved in many smaller companies: what are some of the areas that kind of Bayer's looking into, moving into or investing in the future, and what are you looking for these days?
Well, it's very clear that we are super interested in all the 4 areas I mentioned: gene augmentation, gene editing, allogenic cell therapy, iPSC platform, in breakthrough technology, as well in breakthrough science and assets. So it is a collaborative approach in seeing how we can strengthen, for example, specifically our gene editing capability, going to new setups, getting to more efficiency. I mean, the background mutation, we are not perfect with the CRISPR technology, although, of course, this is an enormous progress. So certainly an area we look into. Certainly, we look into strengthening beyond our excellent collaboration with Atara, our part of the allogenic cell therapy for oncology, where I think the jury is completely out still. What kind of cell, what kind of construct really will make it, for example, to have something very meaningful and a meaningful path forward for solid tumors. But we look also for collaborations, be it on how to improve the switches, which are, I think, very important for the safety of any gene therapy for the future. So we are really open for any collaboration, specifically also for the type of collaboration in the 4 fields of our focus.
I see. And you initially you had touched on kind of really focusing on the platforms, and you've kind of built these kind of core areas that you're in. Now that you do have collaborations and your team really has experience in the space, will you be looking more for single assets as well, or are you still kind of focused as a team on adding to your platforms?
Well, the first and foremost target is obviously to make a preclinical and clinical pipeline real for patients, because the pipeline is only valid if it comes to the patient and the patient has a benefit, and we can also create value, obviously, for Bayer. So that would definitely be the first target, and with 6 clinical assets and over 15 preclinical, this must be obviously focused. But everybody, I think, needs to look what the exponential growth of knowledge and science and technology presents in these days and weeks, and this is exponentially growing. So learnings out of, e.g., the mRNA delivery and what it means for rare diseases definitely is something where we will be very interested and continues to look in and not stand still. Again, very open for any learnings we do either ourselves or in collaboration with others.
Well, thank you so much, Wolfram. Again, there's so much we can talk about, but unfortunately our time is up. So I think we will move into our Q&A session.